this is obviously something we've never seen before.
Star Citizen. A living universe, constantly evolving and pushing the boundaries of immersive storytelling and gameplay. Yet with every bold vision comes discussion, debate, and yes, controversy. Today, we explore one of the most defining and ambitious pillars of the game's design: death of a spaceman. This was last updated February 5th, 2013. This is the oldest talk of Death of a Spaceman. They did another chat about Death of a Spaceman, was it 4 years ago? And then there's been coverage ever since. Slowly, surely, but there's still a lot of misconceptions. Disclaimer right off the bat, a lot of people, when they think of Death of a Spaceman, they immediately think, oh, permadeath. The core vision, at least the way that I took it, I see that, Chris Roberts wants to do it, is it's not just another press and respond kind of system. Chris is more aiming for a death system that holds weight, or like a respawn system where it's not just like, oh, go in, respond, go in, respond, go in, respond. It's supposed to make each character's life journey matter. That's like the whole premise behind it. In here, he goes, my goal with Star Citizen is to build a universe that I want to play in day after day, one that fully immerses me in the environment and stories that happen around me. Obviously, we've seen that because there's been a lot of expanses in Star Citizen towards more immersion. Rather than cosmetic loss, the system is introducing meaningful consequences, injuries, scars, the lineage, cybernetics. I know Space Tomatoes talked about cybernetics in the past, and I think that's going to be a really cool aspect of the game. Here, let's go real quick. So it's stuff like this that they want to do, which I think is cool. They have a lot of different tiers and iterations. They have they have the really high tier stuff, and then you get into some of this stuff, and this is more like, depending on where you're at, it's going to be really basic. That's the whole cybernetic thing. Cybernetics is going to be a cool part of the game. I'm intrigued by that because I think it'll tell a story about your character, and that's kind of what they want, right? Is they want everybody's character to have a different story, and like, oh, I've been through this and this and this and this kind of stuff, and you can kind of tell and see that, but you can also kind of tell and see that someone's had and one of the other things too, right, is they want to get away from calling it a character life or a death, and they want to kind of go in more of the route of it's a cycle, so that it doesn't have these implications where it's like, oh, you're gonna lose everything if you die, because that's not what it is. And they've talked about inheritance tax. They've talked about how they want to do a lineage system, whether that be you're passing it down to your son, your daughter, an aunt, an uncle, a brother, a sister, a friend. And they said that that's going to be something that you input when you were creating your character at the start. And I know in here it kind of goes through and it talks about you're gonna walk up to a mirror and you're gonna do all that stuff, but I think they've changed it, and now it's going to be in the insurance system for the character customization stuff. Character creation scheme will be done in fiction. You'll start the game in first-person view, looking at two bathroom doors, one with male sign and one with a female sign. Which door you walk through will determine your sex. Now, this was obviously older. This was back in 2013 when they first started talking about it. System now is tied in more with the insurance system, and you have the character customization, and you have the whole in-depth thing when you start. I hope they go through soon and they start updating some of this stuff. The earlier stuff, they want to end up doing the whole limb-based health model, where Richard talked about this in one of the ISCs. There's eventually going to come to a point where, yeah, you can get a broken arm, right, from it getting shot, or you can get a fracture from it getting shot. But if it gets hit again or it gets shot again, it can make that fracture turn into a break. It can cause the bone to pop through the skin. It will determine what type of med bed you have to go to, whether it be a tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3. And I think that will be kind of cool, because that'll start giving more into the whole medical gameplay side of things. That'll start driving more into, okay, we need people that can help, and that's actually going to give some substance to having a medic, or having someone who's got a medic loadout as well. They want to make it so that combat's navigated more carefully. They want to get it to a point where, it's not like Call of Duty or Battlefield where you're just kind of running and gunning. They want it to be meaningful. They want it to be something that has kind of a tangibility to it, if you will, be something that means more to players. They don't want it to just be like, oh yeah, I just died again, cool, whatever, I'll just go respawn. They'll have as far as like the medical escalations, right? You have your field care, which is like your basic stuff, like med pens, multi-tool attachments, and that's going to help. Obviously, med pens are like the very, very basic tier 0. And Richard talked about this too, where it's not going to give you full health, fix all your ailments, and bring you back to 100%, but it's going to help you. It's going to get you into that state where you can sort of continue the fight, or get yourself back to where you need to go to. Whereas then you start getting into the med attachment for the multi-tool, which is the next step, but still more limited than the Paramed Med device, where it can do drugs, whereas the Paramed Med device goes a step further and it can properly mix all those different drugs so that you're not overdosing, and it balances those things out with detox agents. And one step higher than that, then you have, mobile trauma units, so your NERSA, your medical Pisces, and then, one step up from that, you have medical Terrapin or bigger ships like the 890 Jump. All are like ship-based, smaller tier med beds, whereas, as you go to the next level, which is actual hospitals, then that's going to be like the final step. They've also talked about they want to have the 3 phases of death. You have, and mind you, this is all subjective. Anything in what we're talking about right now can change, and probably will change, because they stated that Death of a Spaceman is going to keep evolving as Star Citizen evolves, and we've seen that already in this Death of a Spaceman talk from 2013. A lot of it is heavily inspired by Demon Souls and other games like that. So that 3 phases, right? You have your, what they want to be an attached death. You're dead, but you're still tied to your body. A player can rescue you. That's your like downed state, right? That's like you're on the ground, you're unconscious, whatever. But your pot. There goes my sandwich. Release death is more of a, you respawn at your last regeneration point, or, whatever you set your regeneration point to be. You can still get to your gear, body, whatever, later at some point. And then I don't want to call it a permadeath, because it's not. It's the death of a spaceman is what it really is.
He said it. He said it.
And it's more of the cycle rather than the permadeath point or the death point. It's where that physical model of the character has gone through X amount of cycles and can no longer regenerate because of degenerative issues, or I don't know if this is still going to be a thing, but they had talked about where a straight headshot has the potential to just off you. So something like that. And by and large, that could change again too. It's more of when you have to name your successor, when you have to pay the inheritance tax, and that successor gets previous character's stuff. So it's a way to segue that to your next of kin is basically the air system. In the air system, right, you have the multiple cycles before you get to that final cycle for that physical character, and you have to name your heir. And then, as far as like insurance and gear goes, it's all based on the inheritance tax. Go to your next character, next of kin, if you will. But it's going to have implications towards your reputation. It's going to have implications toward things that you've done in the past. Like, say your previous character, your parents, whatever you want to call it, was a smuggler, right? Now, he might have a really bad reputation where a lot of places won't do business with him, or he might be wanted on site by authorities. Whereas if he gets, through all of his regenerative cycles, and now he has to name that heir. That heir is not going to necessarily be on the same level of wanted by authorities or things like that. But also on the vice versa, that means that the reputations that your previous character had, if they're really good and he has a lot of connections, does a lot of business, whatever, may not be seen as that master craftsman or master tradesman, or in the same eyes that their predecessor was seen in. There was talk of having to do trial missions to prove yourself or prove your worth. Because at the end of the day, they do have some of the know-how and some of the knowledge that was passed down from their predecessor, but it's not going to be to the extent. They're not going to have the contacts, et cetera, et cetera. One of the things that they talked about with the whole fatal injuries and being more careful with your character is things like boarding actions are going to be a lot more dangerous than, most other kind of combat activities. Here they say a headshot's more likely to be fatal than any other injury. Boarding a ship is extremely risky proposition. You can gain a valuable prize by capturing another player's property, but you're putting yourself at most risk possible. It's possible you'll just lose an eye or a jaw. That's what Richard said in the ISC. But there's also a very small chance you'll take a laser to the brain and be dead forever. And not permadeath. Again, that's moving back towards, your character has finished his cycles. He can't regenerate because it's a fatal issue. Whereas, some other injuries, like if you lose an arm, or if right before your character dies, his legs get crushed, right? So then and they call these echoes. So these are possibilities of things that can affect your next, regeneration cycle. So if your legs get crushed, you lose an arm, you might have to pick a cybernetic arm or cybernetic legs or something to help you get back into being a citizen of the verse. Then there was, the whole talk of this also kind of leads more into character backstories, building narrative for people, which there's a big part of the community that loves that kind of stuff. They like things that will show, my character has done this, or, I've been here, I've done this, I've done that, I've been a part of this. And you can see that with, these badges, if you will, from scars or from, cybernetic limbs or, whatever. Then this also goes more into giving a bigger reason for the medical gameplay side of things. And the medical gameplay side of things, I think this will be a huge step forward, because let's be honest, right now, for a dedicated medic and Star Citizen, there's not a lot going on. There is stuff to do. I mean, you can have a dedicated medic that, you know, goes with a combat team, helps out in those regards, but at this point in time, you're better off having an extra gun and then somebody who's carrying extra med supplies in, say, their backpack. That, in my opinion, would be a lot more beneficial. As far as risk and reward, so where you are is going to determine how easy it is to get to you. Obviously, it's how it is now. If you're down at level 7 in the research wing of the Onyx facilities and you go down because there's 10 of the irradiated Copian chasing you, and then you have all the NPCs that are guarding the facility that are also chasing you, you go into that down state, it's going to take somebody much longer because they're going to have to go in, fight through all those levels, fight down to where you're at, get to you and rescue you. And it may not even just be as simple as using a med gun to get somebody up. It may become something, and they talked about this kind of with the whole dragging of bodies. It might get to the point where if someone has such critical injuries or, you know, too much damage sustained, that you're going to have to take them by their collar or buddy carry, whatever you want to call it, and bring them back through the facility and get them back up to a ship or a medical area that can get them the proper treatment that they need, which would be super interesting. I think that would add a huge layer for the medical gameplay side of the player base. It would be pretty great. The other thing that they kind of talked about is, since they do want to tie Death of a Spaceman into the whole medical gameplay system, that also means that it makes medical gameplay more complex for those players that want to be able to do it, but it also keeps it simple enough so that people who, you know, may not have a medic with them or may not be a medic specialty can still carry a med pen or a med gun with them and be able to utilize it. I see this going in a route that is a good way to deter people from being able to just go in, run gun, and come out like it's Call of Duty or Battlefield. I think that's a great step in that direction of, hey, we're a survival game. You gotta try to survive. Like, just because you're a griefer doesn't mean that, you know, you can just ignore this stuff. How will you counteract griefing? We believe the system will actually disincentivize griefers. If you're a player who wants to camp out in a safe area to kill new players, you'll quickly have a bounty on your head, and legal PvP will be authorized on you. So the way that I take that, right, is legal PvP, meaning A, you'll be tagged on the bounty hunting system. B, I don't know if this is still a thing because they talked about this so long ago, where armistice zones are going to be a lot lighter on restrictions. Okay, here we go, yeah.
With the law system in 3.6, will we continue to have armistice zones?
Yes, but basically we are working towards removing those or adjusting them. I think our first thing will be Grim Hex, and so we'll figure out how we want to adjust that, whether that just be taking it out completely. But I think part of the things that we need to work out before that happens is security. And so with law, we just have ways of saying, okay, you've broken the law, this is how much it's going to cost. Versus with security, we have ways to basically really enforce that and say, okay, you broke the law. This is either it's going to...
Yeah, so like they were saying there, basically they want to either at some point fully remove armistice zones, or they want to work them into such a fashion. And I don't remember exactly when they were talking about it, but it was something along the lines of, you know, if somebody has a bounty and they're down in ArcCorp and they're walking around and a bounty hunter has tracked them to ArcCorp, you know, because it's a legal PvP bounty, they can utilize that license to either take them out, or they can try to capture them in a way that can get the bounty back alive. This is an old statement, but it's a good statement because hopefully this is still the direction that we're heading in. I don't see why not, but I also haven't seen any more talk since 2019 was the last time they talked about it, Alpha 3.6, about the possibility of removing armistice zones. I'll have to do some digging, and I'll have to find if there's any more stuff that they have talked about as far as removing those or adjusting them, or maybe it might just be a situation. It's like the new Onyx facilities where the armistice zone, when you are in the main starting area to get to other places, like, you know, they have medical there and things like that, so that somebody can't just keep killing somebody as they come out of the medical. And then other areas away from the medical, which may have less security, those are going to be areas where you'll see nefarious actions taking place. That's the way that I see it. I don't know if that's the actual vision for it or if that's what they want to do with it, but in terms of adjusting it, I could see it going that way. I think that would probably be a pretty good adjustment. But yeah, I mean, Death of a Spaceman,
He said it! He said it!
They are working towards it. Obviously, we're getting more and more things as we go on. Limb health, we're getting refined medical beds, and they're actually going through and changing the tiers, and the different tiers can only do so much. By and large, I do think Death of a Spaceman is a fantastic thing for Star Citizen if they approach it the right way and they keep going about it the way that they want to. If it goes and leans more towards the permadeath side of things, I could see that actually being an issue, but the whole cycles ideology of you have the inheritance, that's a great way to tackle it. It's still a risk for people to lose that character, the reputations, all the stuff they've worked for so hard over, you know, that character's current cycle, as opposed to just running a gun. So yeah, I mean, those are my thoughts on the current system for Death of Spaceman.
He said it! He said it!
I hope this was something that helped people understand a little bit more on what it is that Chris is trying to achieve with Death of a Spaceman and where they want to go with it. See where it continues. Just remember, a lot of what was said in here in this video today was opinions and thoughts that I have for where I think they're going to be leading Death of a Spaceman. It's not necessarily fact or exactly what's going to happen. And obviously we're going to have to see more as we get closer to 1.0 and what CIG says they want to do with Death of a Spaceman. I would like to see this page get updated though, just given the different stuff that they had said in the video from 2021 about Death of a Spaceman, the updates, the new things for it, the old things going away. So thank you guys for enjoying and watching the video.